Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on PD1. I'm Ravi Gamage.
And I'm Peruni Karunaratna. Before we head on to your stories in detail, let's first take a look at your headlines.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Harupena discounts of up to 30% off for frames and sunglasses from Vikramarchi Opticians.
Three Sri Lankans serving in the Ukraine army killed in Russian attack. Russia-India joint venture to operate Matala airport. Price formula to be introduced for water tariff. Parliament to meet on Sunday to approve VAT hike. Opposition alleges attempts to prorogue Parliament in a bid to dismantle Parliament committees. Father of one dead after wall collapses at Henavala Hospital in Kadugannawa.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Harupena discounts of up to 30% off for frames and sunglasses from Vikramarchi Opticians.
On to your lead story this evening. Three Sri Lankans who were serving in the Ukraine military have been killed in a Russian attack.
Reports from Ukraine and Russia note that the attack took place on Tuesday.
A telegram channel operation by Russian military personnel revealed this morning that Sri Lankan mercenary Andrew Ranish Hevage, with the call sign Dentist from Sri Lanka, was killed in a Russian attack. It also added that two more Sri Lankan mercenaries that were fighting for the Ukrainian regime died beside Ranish Hevage. According to the telegram channel, the three Sri Lankan mercenaries were killed in a Russian attack when they attempted to evacuate dead and wounded Ukrainian soldiers. A comment on a YouTube video said that Andrew Ranish Hevage was killed in Bakhmut, a city in Ukraine. The comment was made from a YouTube account that goes by the name Lahiru Kavinda. Translation of the comment: Dentist, you breathed your last on my shoulder. You are a hero. I brought you as far as I can. I did everything possible. You made a name, and the name resounds in Ukraine. You deserve an honorable end. Who is this Captain Dentist? An inquiry from the Sri Lankan Defence Ministry revealed that Andrew Ranish Hevage, famous as Captain Dentist in Ukraine, was once a member of the Sri Lanka Light Infantry of the Sri Lanka Army. He had legally left the Sri Lanka Army on the 30th of September 2012 as a lieutenant and also left the entire military service officially. Later, he moved to the UAE for employment and in 2022 decided to join the International Legion for the Defence of Ukraine, where he played an active role. On the 27th of February 2022, just 2 days after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called for Friends of Ukraine to volunteer for the Ukrainian Territorial Defense Forces, and thus was established the International Legion for the Defense of Ukraine. According to international media reports, Andrew Ranish Hevage was serving as a commanding officer on the front lines of the Ukraine-Russia war. In March 2023, Andrew Ranish Hevage also spoke to a social media channel.
There were times that I thought I would never be able to lead a normal life. All I can say is that my death will be sudden, or it has not been written as yet.
It is also reported that Captain Andrew Ranish Hevage was given a promotion by the Ukrainian president for his bravery in the battlefield. Details of the two other Sri Lankans killed along with Andrew Ranish Hevage in the Russian attack were not available.
Sri Lanka has decided to hand over the operations of the Matala International Airport to a private Russian-Indian joint venture. The Ministry of Ports and Aviation Services said that discussions on the matter on Tuesday were successful.
Despite its grand infrastructure, the Matala Rajapaksa International Airport in Sri Lanka, which was built at a cost of $209 million, went on to become the notorious ghost airport. Of the $209 million spent on the project, $190 million was from the Chinese government in the form of high-interest development loans from the Exim Bank of China. In recent years, proposals were put forward to make the Matala International Airport more efficient, and one such proposal was moved for discussion this year. future. As per this proposal, a private Russian-Indian joint venture would take charge of the Matala International Airport operations. Ports and Aviation Services Secretary KDS Ruwanchandra, speaking to Newsfirst, said that discussions on the matter on Tuesday were successful. Accordingly, an agreement will be inked in the near future. The Sri Lankan government currently spends over 2 billion rupees to operate and maintain the Matala International Airport, and with this latest move, such a massive cost can be saved. Sri Lanka Post said that permission was granted to utilize the iconic Nelia post office building for an investment project. The development of the iconic Nelia post office will be undertaken by the Urban Development Authority in the near future.
First, we need to offer a location for Sri Lanka Post to operate the Nelia post office. In addition, we need to give it the same value. We will award the property to local or foreign investors while maintaining the archaeological value of the premises. A feasibility study will also be conducted.
Speaking to reporters at a recent cabinet media briefing, cabinet spokesperson Minister Bandulu Gunawardena revealed that an Indian hotel group is interested in the Nelia post office premises. However, postal trade unions and other factions opposed this move and even went on a token strike. Meanwhile, the collective to protect poultry farmers alleges that the government plans to sell the country's only poultry breeding farm to India.
They are preparing to sell off the Karandagolla poultry breeding farm in Kundasale to the company named Amul. There is a land area of 20.4 hectares here. Although farmers are committed towards the development of this industry, it seems like the officials do not have any mechanism or plan for it. By now, the egg industry is facing a grave crisis. Even the poultry industry in the country is facing a similar situation. They let local industries fall apart and import eggs for our citizens to consume. The selling of this poultry farm will have an adverse effect. We will not be able to prevent a monopoly of egg production in the country falling into their hands.
Sri Lankan authorities are planning on introducing a price formula for the water tariff. Details were elaborated during a media briefing attended by the Minister and State Minister for Water Supply.
ජනතාව දැන් මේ පිරිසිදු වතුර කෝප්පයක් බොන්න බය වෙනවා දැන් ලබන අවුරුද්දේ කොයි වගේ බිලක් එයිද කියන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවනේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට.
It is impossible for us not to increase the tariff. As the Ministry of Water Supply, we are interlinked. We need electricity to provide water to the country. We also have to import chemicals to purify the water. We too experience the forex crisis in the country. As the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, we have to face this issue as well. We are focusing on developing a new price formula. Our officials are currently doing what's necessary.
ලබන අවුරුද්ද වෙනකොට ටිකක් වෙනසක් තේරෙයිද අපිට අවුරුදු මුලදී වගේ
අඩුවේද කියලා අඩු වෙන පාටක් නැහැ. දැම්ම අඩුවේයි කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ.
අර මේ ඉන්ධන මිල සූත්‍රය වගේ සූත්‍රයක්ද
ඒ වගේ එකක් තමයි හදන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
The Sri Lanka Parliament will convene on Sunday to consider the proposal to increase VAT or the value added tax from 15% to 18%. Chairman of the Committee on Public Finance, Dr. Harsha De Silva, said that the goods that will be subjected to VAT for the very first time need to be reviewed.
අලුතෙන් වැට් එක දාලා තියෙනවා අයිතමයන් බරගානකට ඉතාමත්ම සුළු ප්‍රමාණයක් තමයි වැට් එකෙන් නිදහස් වෙන්නේ.
A series of products have been subject to VAT and only a few are exempt from it. The government says that it needs tax revenue. However, we have pointed out that imposing taxes needs to be justified. We have informed that some products subject to VAT need to be reviewed. They said that when the act is taken up for debate, the amendments can be put forward. Products related to child nutrition have been subject to VAT. We are aware that many children are suffering from malnutrition. It is unfair to impose the VAT on food products they require. In addition, VAT is also imposed on diesel. Fertilizer and diesel required for the agriculture sector will have to be imported. We said this needs to be reviewed. Furthermore, medical equipment are also subject to VAT. They claim that the government will now bear the cost of providing medical supply to the state hospitals. They said they cannot do anything when it comes to the private sector. The situation today is that the person who can afford and the person who cannot afford both go to private hospitals. Due to the shortage of supplies, most hospitals do not carry out tests. Therefore, increasing the VAT to 18% is unfair. We urge the government to review this. They are also trying to impose VAT on ambulances like Suasaria. I would like to propose to the Finance Minister to consider the health sector and child nutrition as essential and exempt them from VAT.
පළ කළා නොගහ ඉන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි කියන එක අපි මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයට යෝජනා කරා.
Taxation is not the solution to a forex crisis. Exports have dropped by 15%. No steps were taken to boost exports. The government wants to burden the people with taxes.
මට එකක් කියන්න අමතක වුණා ඒ තමයි
I forgot to mention that prosthetics are also subject to VAT. We demand that these items be released.
කරන්න කියලා තමයි අපි ඉල්ලුවේ මට.
මම හිතන්නේ විවාදයේදී ඔක්කොම කාරණා ගන්න පුළුවන් නේ 10 වෙනිදා.
විවාදය ගන්න දවසේ මේ ඔක්කොම
Instead of taking up all these matters at once, it is better to take up these matters beforehand. It is difficult to do so during a debate.
අපි මේක ඉදිරිපත් කරේ.
The Samagi Janabalawege commented on VAT during a media briefing.
Parliament will be convened on Sunday to raise the VAT to 18%. If the VAT is increased, the prices of everything, starting from paratha to kottu to everything else, will increase. The citizens of the country who are already facing a grave crisis will be inconvenienced much further. During the debate on the expenditure head of the Ministry of Power and Energy, Minister Kanchana said that there is some news. The news is that VAT will be applicable for oil as well. He also said that it will be reduced from other products. That is a trick. If VAT is increased by 10%, that means fuel prices would definitely go up. That means the prices of commodities would increase twice in January.
තෙල් මිල අනිවාර්යෙන් වැඩි වෙනවා. තෙල් මිල වැඩි වෙනවා කියන්නේ ඒකට පිටින් ආය පාරක් බඩු මිල. ඒ කියන්නේ ජනවාරි මාසෙ දෙපාරක් බඩු මිල වැඩි වෙනවා.
Will the increase in VAT be offset by any sort of concession? The cabinet spokesperson responded to a query regarding this matter.
The mechanism to generate revenue has been formulated to match the debt restructuring process, which is considered to be the greatest national crisis at present. The technical aspects of the budget are curated based on the agreement reached with the IMF. There, regardless of whether we like it or not, no matter which government is in power, we need to ensure that there is a current account surplus at the next budget document. The basis of this budget is to ensure that there is such a surplus when other budgets are presented in the future. In order for the current account to indicate a surplus, government tax revenue must be greater than wages, pensions, benefits and recurrent expenditures of the government. We need to turn this into a practical reality under a practice of good financial management. That is the only way a country can progress. Therefore, during a crisis such as this, the debt crisis, we all will have to bear a severe burden.
The opposition alleges that there is a plan to prorogue the parliament right after the budget debates end. The opposition says that this is a plan to disrupt and weaken the Committee on Public Accounts and other committees in parliament.
There is a plan to prorogue Parliament. If the Parliament is prorogued, that will put an end to all the questions asked. After we put so much effort into gathering information and ask a good question and Parliament is prorogued, we would have to start all over again.
Parliamentarian Dasiri Jasekar also made an explanation in this regard.
By now, the COPE is dysfunctional. As a result of an action of the chairman of COPE, Ranjit Bandara, the COPE is no longer functional. There are 246 institutions. We had a month to work as COPE. We used to convene at 2 p.m. The audit inquiries investigate a large number of institutions. But what has happened now? The COPE has been completely suspended. If there was an issue with Ranjit Bandara, that could have been solved separately. But after the 13th of December, the Parliament will convene again only in January. If the government wishes, it could also prorogue Parliament. If that is done, all parliamentary committees, COPE, COPA and finance committees will all become invalid and will have to be reappointed. This is somewhere around the third time the government has done this. If this is done, all procedures will come to a standstill and will have to be started all over again. That will take several more months. The government is planning to jeopardize all activities of COPE.
This is what the cabinet spokesperson had to say.
No attention was paid to that matter in the cabinet. That is the role of the parliament and not the cabinet. In 2021, 2022 and 2023, we saw the parliament being prorogued as per the wishes of the president. This is normal in parliament culture. There is nothing special about it.
Hundreds of thousands of Sri Lankans have been battered by the economic crisis and are finding it difficult to make ends meet. Today, a father of one lost his life after he was crushed under a wall that collapsed at the Henavala Divisional Hospital in Kadugannava.
According to Newsfirst correspondents, an old wall located close to a wall at the Henavala Divisional Hospital in Kadugannava collapsed when workers were preparing the foundation for a new wall to be constructed. The incident took place at noon, and one person who was working at the site explained what transpired. The man who passed away after being crushed under the weight of the wall was 33-year-old Ranjit Aberatna. He was the father of a 1.5-year-old child. The remains are placed at the Henavala Hospital in Kadugannava, and the Kadugannava police are investigating the incident.
Several expenditure heads, including that of the Ministry of Buddha Sasana, Cultural and Religious Affairs, were taken up for debate in Parliament today. Dealings of the Central Cultural Fund during the good governance regime featured heavily during the debate.
An audit observation was directed to COPE regarding a misuse of funds of the Central Cultural Fund. A 3-member committee examined it and ruled that nearly 10 billion rupees had been misappropriated. The chairman of the governing committee was incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe. State funds were misused without his approval. During that time, 3,000 people have been newly employed at the Housing Development Authority without any approval. There is a mention of a conclusion. It reads, as per the exhaustive observations, commitments for payments, entering into agreements with state corporations have been done following cabinet approval and has been approved following the go-ahead from the governing committee. If there is approval from the governing committee, I will humbly withdraw this. My argument is that it was not approved by the governing committee.
ඉස්සෙල්ලා රෝහණ දීර වාර්තාවෙන් කිව්ව බිලියන 11ක් හොරා කෑවයි කියලා. ඒක 2020 ජූනි අගභාගයේ ලබා දීලා ඒක පාවිච්චි කරා මහමැතිවරණයට දේශපාලන ප්‍රචාරක කටයුතු ක්‍රියා.
The Rohanadira report earlier said 11 billion rupees were stolen. It was provided towards the end of June in 2020 and was used for political propaganda for the general election. The report compiled by the committee appointed thereafter is not being published. As mentioned in the comprehensive observations, funds invested between 2015 to 2019 are greater than the funds obtained, and in 2019 the amount of fixed deposits stood at 6,033 million rupees. These are the findings of the new committee and they are not being publicized. They speak of meetings of the governing body. The Prime Minister at the time, who is the incumbent president, had not attended a single meeting. But the governing body meeting was held at Temple Trees. The Jinadasa report reached the conclusion that it is understandable that he did not attend the meetings due to his busy schedule. The cheque was written to the divisional secretary's account and not to a personal account. So, where is the theft and crime?
චෙක් එක ලියලා තියෙන්නේ ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම්ගේ ගිණුමට. කාගේ පුද්ගලික ගිණුම් වලට නෙවෙයි. එතකොට කෝ මේ කෙරුවයි කියන බොරුව, හොරකම සහ අපරාධය කියන එක මම අහන්න කැමතියි.
කරු විරුද්ධ පක්ෂ නායකතුමා ඉල්ලීමක් කළා.
The opposition leader requested that the 3-member committee report be tabled in Parliament. This committee was appointed based on a request by COPE. The report has been sent to COPE so it can be tabled if they wish to do so.
Daily Mirror පුවත්පතේ ප්‍රධාන ශීර්ෂ පාඨය වෙන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ප්‍රෝග් කරන්න යනවා COPE කමිටුවේ
The main headline of the Daily Mirror is that efforts are underway to prorogue Parliament and suspend COPE. That was in today's newspaper. If so, if COPE received a report, there is no opportunity to table it in Parliament. Therefore, there is a chance that this report may not be tabled. I request the subject minister to intervene and ensure this does not happen.
ගත නොවී ඉන්න අවස්ථාවක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා ඒක වෙන්න නොදී ඔබතුමා මැදිහත් වෙන්න කියලා ඒ ඉල්ලීම අපි කරනවා.
මම අහන්න කැමති ඇයි අද දවසේම කෝප් කමිටු
Why can't COPE table it in Parliament today? Do not conceal this from the people and spread false rumours.
කතා කතා දාලා අපිට මඩ ගස්සවන්න එපා.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහතාගේ අනුමැතියට
The active director at the time received approval from Sajith Premadasa. 1.6 million rupees were obtained to renovate the Sirikota building. I have a document and I can reveal more spendings.
සිරිකොත අලුත් වැඩියා කරන්න මධ්‍යම සංස්කෘතික අරමුදලෙන් හෝ
If you prove that I have given an order in writing requesting funds to renovate Sirikota from the Central Cultural Fund or any other government institution, I will resign.
good. හරි. විපක්ෂයට කරන ලොකුම උදව් එක. එතුමා අයින්
His resignation is the biggest favour to the opposition and Parliament.
සුබදායක ආරංචියක්.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා
ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා
2011 වසරේ සංස්කෘතික අරමුදලේ මුදල් වලින් ගිරුවා පත්තුවෙන් තල් අරුණට තල් අරුණලු රුහුණු පුරට වැඩසටහනට
In 2011, 300,000 rupees was given from the Central Cultural Fund to the Giruapattuwen Thal Arunalu Ruhunupurata cycle tour. 7.5 million rupees were spent through the Central Cultural Fund in 2012 for the Ape Abhimane movie. This is the audit report. 351,000 rupees were spent from the fund for the second anniversary celebration of the President's appointment in 2013.
සමරුම වෙනුවෙන් සුබ පැතීමට 3,51,000ක් 2013 වසරේ මධ්‍යම සංස්කෘතික අරමුදලෙන් වැය කරලා
මරිකාර් මන්තුමා ආසනයට යන්න කටේ හයියට බය ගන්න මේක ස්ථාවර නියෝග වැඩ කරන්නේ මරිකාර් මන්තුමා ආසනයට යන්න ආසනයට යන්න
ටී-ෂර්ට් 1,200ක් මිලදීගෙන තියෙනවා.
On the 1st of May 2013, 1,200 T-shirts were purchased from the Central Cultural Fund for International Labour Day. In 2013, 5 million rupees were also spent to produce 500,000 DVDs. The fund was not used to build temples, kovils, churches or mosques, but for their personal expenses. The people of this country should know about these.
දැනගත යුතුයි කියලා මම මේ
බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
මම අමාත්‍යාංශ අභ්‍යකරණ විකරණ වාර්තාව.
I gave him the internal audit report of the ministry. He read it and didn't say a word. If he is a headstrong opposition leader, he must resign.
මේ ඇම්බැට්ටෝ ටිකක් දාලා හොර අභ්‍යන්තර විකරණ
They have used their henchmen to make a forged internal audit report for 2022 and are making fake reports to vilify me. This report was not sent by the National Audit Office or by the Auditor General. They have compiled this to misguide us. It is very clear.
Tharu paid discounts. Enjoy up to 30% off on frames and sunglasses this Christmas with Vikramarachi Opticians.
Welcome back to the news. Is there a plan to shut down the Civil Security Department? The State Minister of Defence provided an answer.
The Civil Security Department employs around 30,000 personnel. They are to be removed after providing an allowance. Is this true? How much are you offering to end their service? They will leave the service if at least 5 million rupees is paid. There are currently 34,000 people serving in the Civil Defence Force, but we have stopped recruiting for it after 2015. Our primary objective is to make the Civil Defence Force an efficient service. Because we have recruited these people from bordering villages, we have deployed them in the same areas. Our department is under pressure and receive calls not to transfer people to certain areas or to keep them. We can't be pressured to do either. We give these people a chance to choose to serve the nation, but they cannot choose which area they serve. It will no longer be possible to work from home. For those who don't like it, we hope to provide a voluntary retirement scheme. We pay these people's salaries with the money of the taxpayers, and the people working in the private sector pay a large amount of taxes. Honourable Speaker, it is a national crime that we take money from an efficient service and put money into an inefficient one. We are against that. Either they need to serve according to the needs of the nation, or we will provide those who want to leave with a severance package. The decision as to the amount is still under discussion.
ක්‍රමවේදය සම්බන්ධයෙන් තාම තියෙන්නේ සාකච්ඡා මට්ටමේ ගරු කතානායකතුමනි.
Sri Sri Lanka's Met Department said that cyclone Mikjom is currently weakening. Mikjom made landfall near the beach town of Matala in the Andhra Pradesh state with winds of up to 70 miles per hour that later dropped slightly as the severe category cyclone weakened.
Cyclone Michaung barreled into the southern Indian coast on Tuesday with intense winds. Its arrival preceded by torrential rains and flooding that killed at least 13 people as officials assessed the damage. A total of 51 flight services in all three major airports in Andhra Pradesh were cancelled. Also, rail services were badly hit and over 100 trains were cancelled. Given the weather conditions of the cyclone, the airport authorities at Visakhapatnam International Airport cancelled 23 flight services on Tuesday, while Tirupati also cancelled all 15 services. According to Sri Lanka's Department of Meteorology, showers or thunder showers will occur at several places over most provinces. Heavy showers about 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the central, Sabaragamuwa and north central provinces. Several spells of showers can be expected in coastal areas of the western province and in the Galle and Matra districts.
The signing of a memorandum of understanding between the National Archives of Sri Lanka and the National Archives of the Netherlands took place yesterday at the Department of National Archives, Columbo.
The National Archives of the Netherlands and Sri Lanka will work together to digitize close to 7,500 Dutch archives held by the Department of National Archives in Sri Lanka that are spanning from 1640 AD to 1796. This agreement was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers on the 31st of October 2023 and its signing ceremony took place last afternoon at the Department of National Archives in Colombo. The Ambassador of the Netherlands to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Cultural Ambassador of the Netherlands for International Cultural Cooperation and the Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs were present at the occasion.
1960s, correct me if I'm wrong, it was political diplomacy up to 70, 80. And in 80s, it was financial diplomacy. Now it is the era of cultural diplomacy. Whether we like it or not, this is the theme that we have to carry forward, cultural diplomacy, which encompasses all politics, economics, social and environmental, all that. That is within this word culture. Archives is also part of that. But we have to link with the new technology. Unless we link with the new technology, we may lag behind. So it is one of the great achievements on our side and initiatives on the side of Netherlands that we are moving towards digitization.
The agreement was signed by the Director General of the National Archives of Sri Lanka and the head of the Digitization Department of the National Archives of the Netherlands, representing the Director General of National Archives of the Netherlands. A panel discussion on reclaiming cultural heritage from the clutches of colonialism drew an audience in Colombo yesterday. With the theme Restitution of Cultural Artifacts in a Global Perspective, the panel discussed the conflicts from history and the present that call for a fair reconstruction of the past.
A panel discussion was held yesterday in occasion of the Restitution Festival, where several artifacts looted from Sri Lanka during the Dutch occupation were returned back to the National Museum of Sri Lanka. The panel discussion included Ambassador for International Cultural Cooperation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Netherlands, Head of the History Department of Rijksmuseum, Egyptian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, and other members representing the National Museum of World Cultures.
If you look at all your museums, there is enough stuff that you have which you can share with us. Our people want to also see what they achieved at that time. I'm not talking about the past, but for the present, they still would have some pride in what they had. I think this is very important. So that's where we would like you to help in a way to get us that pride back by giving us some of our stuff. You have given us 6, but I'm sure you have a lot more.
Discussions were held on the history of the items returned, ideas behind the return process, what museums do in this era of giving cultural heritages back, and diplomatic and cultural relations between the two nations.
Now Sri Lanka has its own restitution committee. So anything you think about that you want back, go and speak to the restitution committee. This is what we needed to be able to work on this in a more constructive way. What we are working on from the Netherlands side is that in the next few years there's money from the government to be able to do more research.
Having this political debate
internationally, regionally, between Sri Lanka and Netherlands and other countries in the UN, in UNESCO. This is very important, the political debate about colonialism. When it comes to the cultural objects, we need to have these conferences with the civic society in London, in the Netherlands, in Paris, in Germany. So yes, having the conferences in these capitals is very important, to bring it to life, to build on this brave decision by the Netherlands.
If the Sri Lankan government can negotiate with the Netherlands government and the Rice Museum and other European institutions where Sri Lankan objects are being held, we can probably have a multi-country collaboration to train our conservators, train those who are doing interpretation curators. Therefore, that is an area that we really need to improve.
Ambassador for International Cultural Cooperation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Netherlands also spoke at the event.
What is also next is how do we further engage with the larger public that is going to be engaging with these objects. I know that our embassy is organizing a series of public talks. I think you will also be involved. So I think there's a lot of concrete work that we will take up and I'm really looking forward also to that.
The aim of the Restitution Festival panel discussion was to introduce important moments in the global discussion about giving things back, which might help discussions in Sri Lankan museums and heritage areas.
Still in local news, the consultation meeting on the draft National Electric Mobility Policy for Sri Lanka was held in Columbo today.
The Ministry of Transport and Highways and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific held a consultation meeting on draft National Electric Mobility Policy for Sri Lanka in Colombo today.
The policy at national level will show way forward to all the initiative across the country, and it will be help to integrate the standalone efforts to collaborative initiative. The year 2024 will be declared as a e-mobility year in Sri Lanka. The ministry look forward to taking this policy to the implementation phase with the support of all related ministries and private sector stakeholders. In March 2024, we will have an exhibition and a conference to exchange global ideas and showcase all initiatives within our country. For investors to partner and scale up national enterprises. This will be a global initiative aimed at promoting sustainable and efficient public transportation system.
Sri Lanka Cabinet of Ministers approved the preparation of a strategic plan to create the background needed to promote the use of electric vehicles, and the policy will be tabled in Parliament.
The Embassy of France in Sri Lanka and the Maldives concluded their cultural program commemorating the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties between France and Sri Lanka with an exclusive screening of The Tree Goddess or Vaishnavi, the last film directed by the late Dr. Sumitra Peiris, released in 2018.
The exclusive screening of Vaishnavi served as a fitting and symbolic conclusion to the 75th anniversary celebrations, honouring Dr. Sumitra Peiris, Sri Lanka's first female filmmaker who shared a profound connection with France.
Nothing could be more fitting than for concluding this event and this celebration than giving the floor, actually, if I may say so, to Sumitra Peiris. She is one of the link, one of the bridges between the two countries, and her art, her movies illustrate the relation between the two countries.
The screening also served as a tribute to Dr. Peiris, a pioneer in Sri Lankan cinema and a supporter of France, renowned as the poetess of Sinhala cinema. Dr. Peiris held the prestigious position of Sri Lanka's ambassador to France, Spain and the United Nations in the late 1990s.
A special program of the third leg of the LOLC DAVIA program took place, centering on the Kalutara, Kurunegala, Potlam and Negombo towns.
In the third leg of the program, a total of 1,222 schools with fewer than 150 students will be given school books and other stationery items. School books and other stationery items required by students for a period of 1 year were presented to students of the Kalutara Primary School, Kurunagala Hindu Tamil Mahavidyalaya, Putlam Manaveri Primary School and the Nigambo Tellantuva Vidyalaya. The LOLC Divisavya program is carried out with the assistance of the Ministry of Education. This program will continue to build a brighter future for the Sri Lankan student population.
The International Taekwondo Championship Columbo 2023 commenced at the Sugatadasa Indoor Stadium.
The International Taekwondo Championship Columbo 2023 is organized by the Sri Lanka Taekwondo Federation. The program of the International Taekwondo Championship Columbo includes the GCS International Open Taekwondo Championship, Asia International Open Taekwondo Championship, First South Asian Open Taekwondo Championship and the GCS International Conference. Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, Nepal, India, Turkey and Malaysia will take part in the International Taekwondo Championship Columbo 2023. 2,300 players along with 300 officials from 100 clubs will be taking part in the event. The opening ceremony of the International Taekwondo Championship Columbo 2023 will take place tomorrow. The Asia International Open Taekwondo Championship will take place on the 7th and 8th of December. GCS International Conference will be held on the 8th of December. The first South Asian Open Taekwondo Championship will take place on the 11th and 12th of December.
Well, that's it from the English News Desk for tonight. I'm Ravi Gamage.
And I'm Peruni Karunaratna. Thank you for watching. Good night.